not have sexual relations.
And I realize that this is something he is
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
All right, welcome to another edition of Backfire this week with John Stanberry, Franklin Chansey, and of course myself, Steve Doughball Hickson, and our chief engineer over here, Mr. Daniel Brantley. I tell you what, there's been a lot going on in this world, both locally and nationally this week. So we're going to start talking about the locals. What about the elections here? It's a few upsets.
A good many upsets.
Let's see, the county school board, they did a wipeout, right?
Well, it takes 4 votes to control a vote on that board, and that voting block has probably completely shifted at this point.
Three incumbents, sir.
And well, they were all 3 sort of in that voting block that had sort of been leading the way.
Yeah. What do you think, Franklin?
Well, I hope the new elected members of the school board can be a unifying force rather than a divisive force. I hope so. And I hope that they will work closely with the director of schools, who I've heard good things about.
I was going to say,
I
want to brag. I think that Dr. Cash has been a really good choice for the community, and I hope that they will allow her to continue to work as she's been.
Yeah. Well, I hope so too. I hope they don't come in there and try to all have an agenda that they want.
Well, I hope there's
happen.
not old agenda. I will say this: that if you have to make a statement where you mention you don't have an agenda 3 or 4 times, a lot of people might think you're a little overly sensitive about having an agenda. And let me say this:
that board has just had a history in recent years of being very divided.
Well, I think I really think the last 3 or 4 years they've worked well with the commission.
And I think that it would be a step back if they now became divided again.
I agree.
So I hope they find some common ground.
And let me say one other thing about that. 12% turning out to vote is a disgrace. When Afghanis are sticking their purple dipped fingers up in the air to show that they voted at risk of being killed, and they get 60 to 70% voter turnout, and we had around 1,000 votes in a couple of those races. So you're talking, we're 100,000 population county. That's 1%.
Yeah.
Choosing who's going to be in charge of how we educate our children. And
it's the biggest money budget, that
biggest piece of the budget
that we have
by far.
12% voter turnout is shameful.
Anyway, it was interesting. Let's go on into the city side of it with the commission. The city commission, George Poe. City council, George Poe getting beat, and got beat pretty bad.
Yeah, I think the margin in that one was probably a surprise to a lot of people, but
he was beaten by another longtime name in the community,
yeah.
and
Avery
force
Johnson.
on the.
What do you think? What do you think happened there? Avery moved.
I don't know. I saw a lot of signs go up for Avery. I think he probably worked hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know he worked hard,
and I know George worked hard.
Do you? I've heard people say that they didn't think the vice mayor deal was fair, the way it was handled in the past.
Well, let me say this. I think I'm always disappointed when elected officials are motivated more by their personal ambition than by getting a job done. So the idea that we fuss and fight over a position like vice mayor is kind of sad too.
Yeah.
I hope that wasn't the motivation for all of this.
Well, I hope so too. But I've heard.
I would like to think that the results in that election were a pro Avery Johnson result as opposed to an anti-Poe result. I personally think that Avery Johnson has been an asset to the council, and I think that he has done things the right way, even when I've disagreed with him. And so I hope that was a sign of that.
Is that what you and John feel too?
Absolutely. John and I have certainly disagreed with each other, but there's no personal animosity in that. In spite of the tone of our discussions sometimes.
I mean, if you've watched over the years, I think it's clear George put his heart and soul into that work, and I think Avery did too. And so I kind of hated to see two people who've both dedicated years to serving the community against each other.
George, I always felt, had fire and police support him quite a bit when he was running for office. And I think possibly one of the things that happened this election, instead of someone outside the circuit, there was another person in the council that had the respect of the fire and police as much as George did. And I think that probably at least split that, so that probably changed the outcomes.
Well, there's also a concept along that line that a lot of issues have been resolved, and a lot of the power of one individual is gone now, and so they just may not have been that motivated to do anything either. Whereas in the past, that group had worked hard for one candidate or the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, it was interesting elections, and you're right, John. It's a shame that we don't have more people come out on the local aspect and support some of these elections, because it is
12% is nothing for us to brag about. That's for sure.
No. Notice where the council approved $15 million, almost $16 million for another new school. And anyway, I read on
Where's
down
that
here.
money coming from?
Well, I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and read another part of this article I'm reading. There's an architect showed the council an updated design, explained the change that makes space for overflow parking. Wonder why we can't use another school plan and not have to redevelop a plan. In other words, we have to have a new design every time we build.
Well, the county's not doing that. The last several years, the county has taken the same design that they paid for.
Okay.
And, one of the nice things, for example, if you're a builder and you're building in a neighborhood that has a certain number of, let's say it has 4 or 5 house plans that people can choose from in that neighborhood, your cost to build those houses actually decreases over time, because as you build them, you find out what works and you find out what doesn't work.
Sure.
And you modify the plan and tweak it here and there. Why in the world wouldn't we be doing that with our schools?
I don't know. I don't know why they don't have, a set of 3 or 4 plans for the whole state of Tennessee.
Well, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these plans.
Mm-hmm. I know. I understand what you're saying. Of course, the architects don't want to hear this.
I'm sure they don't.
Anyway, it looks like there is going to be a new school. It's going to be out off Georgetown Road, I believe, our own Georgetown Road, out in the Hopeville area.
There's site work that's already been done out there.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's going to have apparently commercial development in front of it, I'm not sure I completely understand the thought process there.
Yeah. Wonder what's going to happen to Hopewell School.
Well, unfortunately, the city probably doesn't care, which is another sad thing.
Well, I mean, surely they care.
No, I can tell you that when they were citing Mayfield, there was actually discussion at that time, from what I heard on the city school board, where they said, well, let's put it over here close to Michigan Avenue because that's a really good group of kids, and we'll siphon some of those kids off. And I know that people in the county said, why would you? Michigan Avenue is one of the best balanced schools in the county system. Why would you purposely?
Probably the most balanced one.
Why would you purposely try to go in there and disrupt that? And the action back sort of was, well, that's the county and we're the city. Who cares?
Well, I mean, I think it's always been the case that the next school of that sort is going to be built on the western side of the city. That's where the growth has been most heavily. over the years, so that's not really a surprise.
Yeah.
But it's half a mile from Hopewell, 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, we've had the same problem with the fire department. We built that fire station at Tasso that is actually, the county did that inside the city now. So it just, if you were spending your own money, if this was a private enterprise, you'd be more careful with the money and you'd be more logical with the money.
Well, I guess this is going to be a what kind of school? Middle school?
It's elementary, I thought.
Elementary? Okay.
Although it'd be nice to see some numbers on their population numbers, because I've heard the numbers have been steady, if not maybe declined a little bit the last couple of years.
How would it decline?
Well, they move in and out. Some of them switch over and go to the county.
Yeah.
And plus your population comes and goes. The fact that you have population growth doesn't mean you have population growth in that age demographic.
We've got some new industry coming to town. What is this?
Polotech.
Polotech.
They're already here, actually. That's the fleece that you see on kids wearing and outdoor wear.
Uh-huh.
That's polyester fleece. That's a wonderful insulator. That's huge business, and they're moving jobs from a plant somewhere up north where they were originally. I say originally.
Yeah.
The original company was purchased by another larger company. That company's moving jobs down here.
Probably moving from a non-right-to-work state to a right-to-work state, if I had to bet.
What you think there, Franklin?
Well, the mayor of that town sent a message down here and said, enjoy those jobs while you got them, because they'll move on to somewhere else eventually. So,
said what now? Say that again.
He said basically, don't get too excited about them. They'll move on to somewhere else.
Unless you keep a positive environment for them to do business in, which is what Republicans try to do.
In other words, we don't want to go union around here.
Well, we're a right-to-work state, and it's a huge attraction for new industry.
Council okays the microbrewery warehouse permits. Now, it's my understanding, I was talking to Franklin about this morning. I read something in the banner about it. I was thinking it was going to be a beer microbrewery, but it's not. It's a liquor microbrewery.
Is that a brewery or is that a distillery?
Well, there's no.
Well,
hold on. This
okay
was motivated by a distributor who wants to have a facility here. But the ordinance that they're doing, I think they have wisely gone ahead and updated our ordinance so that we're in line with other communities, so that it's possible if somebody wanted to have a Big River Grill or something like that, where they do the microbrewing on premises, which is very popular everywhere right now,
right,
that they could go ahead and be able to do that under the ordinances. So I don't think this just applies to this one person. We just had to update our ordinances to make it feasible.
The one that's trying to get the permit right now, they're
a distributor who primarily does certain wines and liquors, and some microbrewers.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. I was reading the article. It's really kind of interesting. That John would probably find that interesting. All these distributors essentially have monopolies on certain products. So Athens distributor is the only one in this area who can sell Jack Daniels, for example.
Right.
So
Cleveland sure has come a long way.
It sure has.
I remember when Cleveland run Budweiser out of town. I mean, absolutely. Ran them off. They're down there in Georgia now. You can see them on Cartersville. You can see them on the side of the interstate.
It's come farther than that. I can remember the being in the back seat and pulling up outside the little building on the outskirts of town with a little window that popped up, and everybody who's alive then knows what I'm talking about.
And you bought a half pint. I think a half pint was $5, wasn't it?
I believe it was, and that was big money in those days. Let me tell you.
And about
That was a full tank of gas.
But people that didn't.
once every 5 years, they'd get busted, and they'd catch about 4 or 5 half pints over there.
But people that didn't drink and don't understand that, when you talked about moonshiners and all, they all assumed you were going out there buying something that they had cooked up in the back. It was regular whiskey, and the interesting thing there is, what was the crime? What were they guilty of violating? Which law?
Well,
The tax law.
It's a tax law.
Yeah,
it's not the whiskey. Government didn't care about you buying whiskey.
Yeah.
They just wanted their cut of it.
right. That's
For the government, it's always about the money.
it is, I guess. The little boy, the family of the Muslim teen arrested over the clock has filed a lawsuit. What do you think? Give me some opinions.
I think it was a setup from the start. I think he provoked the incident, and I think he's trying to milk it at this point.
Well, the Mohammed family questioned whether the boy was mistreated due to his religion.
Well, I'm glad he decided to come back to America after his pilgrimage.
His father's kind of a radical person.
Always has been. The family's been like this from the start.
So you think it was a setup to start
Oh,
with?
it was a setup. First off, the boy had built other things that were actually fairly high-level productions. This was an extremely low-level production, and it was very suspiciously designed to look like a bomb. I think he did it on purpose. I think he was trying to provoke a reaction. He got the reaction, and now he's going to try to financially gain from it.
And Ashmed's story brought an outpouring of support from President Barack Obama, other political leaders, corporate executives, and NASA scientists.
Well, maybe Obama can reach into his own pocket and pay the bill for the school system when they lose this lawsuit.
Texas school system, isn't it?
Yeah. Since he was so happy about it.
Let me ask you, what did the school system do wrong?
I'm sure they're going to claim that the reason they were suspicious of him is because he's Muslim.
Well, the difference.
Well, no, wait a minute. There had been a lot of problems at that time, and there was a lot of controversy in school systems all over the country. Well, there had been a lot of problems with school systems all over the country, shootings in the schools, some of these type of things. So all the school systems had turned up.
Well, they're supposed to have zero
security.
When you suspend a first grader for biting his Pop-Tart into a gun shape,
no kidding,
and now you're going to criticize them for taking something that honestly looked exactly like a bomb.
Yeah.
I'm not a bomb expert, but on at least what I've seen on TV, that's what it looked like.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we're going to criticize them for being careful.
Well, I think the part of that story that gets left out is the young man showed it to a teacher, allowed the teacher to take it, told them what it was, and that teacher then went and got the police, and the police then came and charged him with making a fake bomb when he said, "But I've made a clock. I gave you a clock." So, yeah, it seems like there was a bit of an overreach on my
Well, do you think it was an overreach for the kindergartner and the Pop-Tart? Because I don't remember you being that upset over that.
Actually, you just have a bad memory because I told you I thought it was absurd.
Is it absurd enough for them to pay millions of dollars in damages to him?
I don't know if it's millions of dollars in damages.
Well, I'm sure. What's he asking for? Because from what I didn't see the number, but they said it was a pretty big number.
Well, what one asked for.
This article doesn't say, but it's millions, I think. Hundreds of thousands, I'm sure. Who's the winner here?
Probably ISIS. I mean, what you're doing is you're affecting the threshold here.
Well, who's the winner and who's the loser?
Look. We have, for example, the shooter down at the Pulse nightclub. Police were aware of him, and they left him alone because they were afraid of being accused of bias and racism. We've got multiple cases. The Fort Hood shooter.
Where did that conclusion come from, John?
Because they were aware of him, Franklin. They didn't do anything. The Fort Hood shooter, Franklin, psychiatrists were aware of him. They had actually noted his rantings and his writings, and we have actual commentary in the Fort Hood situation where they said they needed to leave him alone because they didn't want to be accused of bias. And what's he do? He goes and kills 14 people. Well, so it does affect our safety, these kind of things.
Sure. The big difference there is they had actual knowledge of him having mental illness.
Well, but the point here, Franklin, is at what point do you take some action at what, it's always a judgment call.
Well, yeah, John, but your side is the one who's always saying we need to focus on the mental illness side of it. Well, I agree with you. We do need to focus.
No,
on
actually, in the terrorist thing, we need to focus on the young Muslim male between the ages of 19 and 29, which has been nearly all of the attackers. All of them have been that. But your side is saying, if we do that, we're profiling.
So you're now saying that you're in favor of the 3/4 of Syrian refugees that have been admitted because they're females and children. So you're okay with them, right?
I'm for screening.
Is that right?
Well, actually, Franklin, my statement's a little behind the times because the ISIS has actually adapted to my statement, and they're now using children and women as terrorists. So you're right. We constantly have to be reevaluating. And by the way,
your
folks,
earlier statement was not accurate.
Just so you know, the liberal version of there's no real better society and worse society, the way they get a lot of these women to be terrorists is they rape them. And under Sharia law, if you've been raped, it's your fault, and you've now condemned your entire family. And so they go to the raped women that they purposefully raped and say, hey, you can buy your family's honor back by strapping this bomb onto your back and going and martyring yourself. That's the wonderful people we're fighting.
Well, I want to get back to my original question about the bomb boy. Who's the winner and who's the loser with this lawsuit?
Well, so far the bomb boy's done pretty well out of all of this. And I'm sure if he gets anything at all, plus he's getting publicity, which he'll probably turn into something.
I think the winner probably is the attorney who's handling the suit. It's going to get a third of it.
Well, that's true, too.
What about school systems if we set it up where a school system couldn't be liable? Or
well, you can't do that, first of all.
What is it? Isn't there something about a president can't be liable for anything, or a government employee, they can't be liable for certain things? Why can't we make
most elected officials?
I mean, the school system is the taxpayer.
Well, first of all, he would be suing under a federal law, not under a state law. So the state can't immunize itself from those claims.
But the federal government immunized itself.
All governments immunize themselves. The state of Tennessee immunizes itself for all kinds of things.
I don't understand, and I'm not arguing with you. I don't understand what you just said.
The state of Tennessee can't immunize itself for violations of the federal Constitution.
So
there's a statute, Section 1983, which is a civil rights statute, which creates a cause of action for policy violations or actions taken under color of state law in violation of the federal Constitution.
Let me ask you a question. OSHA, for example. Mm-hmm. Congress doesn't have to abide by OSHA. Is that not the federal? So you're saying the federal government effectively can immunize itself from federal laws?
The state does this all the time to themselves.
I know, but you're telling me the state can't. So
not
in other
against
words,
a federal offense.
Right, but the feds can immunize themselves from federal law.
Just like the state can immunize itself from state law.
But my point is there's no one above the feds. So basically, we've granted the federal government...
John, if you're asking me, should Congress be immunized from OSHA, the answer is no, they shouldn't be.
But
I agree with you. Well, I'm sure you can find examples where you and I would say, nope, that shouldn't happen. That'd be one of them. I agree with that.
Well, let me ask you a question. I want to get back to my question here. Who's the winner and who's the loser?
Well, I hope that we will all be a loser by having a conversation about it.
I understand. But if an attorney that sues a school system couldn't win a big, large amount of money, let's just say it was capped, where there wasn't a huge amount of money to win for an attorney, do you think they'd be willing to go into these lawsuits like this?
Some would, some wouldn't.
I think the ones that would, under those circumstances, probably are doing it because they truly believe in the case that they're bringing forward.
But this would be an example of, this is where John and I would get into a philosophical disagreement. There's all kinds of federal and state statutes that have no penalty for violating them in them. The only enforcement mechanism provided in the statutes is the possibility of some civil lawsuit. Congress could easily fix that. They could say, if we find you do this, we're going to punish you this way.
You mean like they found the Attorney General in contempt of Congress and nothing was done? That kind of action?
I'm talking about a piece of legislation.
You mean like the director of an IRS program refusing to testify and turn documents over to Congress and nothing
No, John,
happened?
that's not what we're talking about at all.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand where you're going.
No, you're trying to
make a point.
But not the point that we're talking about.
Well, I mean, sometimes you stumble into points, and I just like to make sure and point it out.
You know, it's real easy to pick on lawyers. But let's talk about that for a moment.
All
you
right.
know, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise this week.
I've got a couple of lawyers in my family, so I'm not picking on them.
That ISIS took the approach they did in Pakistan. They
killed. That's true.
They targeted a lawyer, killed him, knowing that there would be a huge funeral for this immensely popular person. And there were hundreds of lawyers there.
And then they killed
And they
them.
drew them there so they could have a suicide bomber go off there, because they know that the legal system is really what holds a society together.
That's true. That's why when
they want that system to fall apart.
That's true.
So,
He's absolutely right, and that was a terrible tragedy. But that's also why when you have the highest elected official in the country, the President of the United States, commit perjury in a federal court, then the legal profession should have been all over that, but they weren't on Bill Clinton.
He was disbarred.
He was disbarred in his home state.
Well, that's who you
But
get the
federally,
license from.
there
You don't
was
get
no-
a federal license.
Federally, there was no big outcry over that. He should have gone to jail for perjury because he committed perjury. And the point is perjury does it happen all the time? Sure, it happens all the time. But when you allow the highest elected official in the United States of America to openly commit perjury in order to protect his own self-interest and no real serious consequence, matter of fact, he goes on to become a multi-millionaire, and his wife is now poised to be the second president from that family, there's something wrong with the legal community when that's allowed to happen.
Well, he's not practicing law, so I don't know what that means. There's something wrong with
He
the
should have
legal
gone
community.
to jail.
Well, he makes more money not in law now.
Lots of people do.
Yesterday, I heard the Clinton family.
Most people
the Clintons have $100 million, over $100 million now.
I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah. I want to get back to one more point on this clock kid. That's what I'm going to call him, the Muslim clock kid.
By the way, folks, if you're concerned about the clock kid, pull up a picture of the device and look at it. Feel free to pull up the device and look at it.
Well, here we are now. Now we're involved in a lawsuit, okay?
Yep.
Now then, I'm reading the end of this story.
We are involved in a lawsuit.
Well, our culture.
Our culture
as
is
taxpayers and culture.
No, you're not a taxpayer in the state of Texas.
We're not a taxpayer in the state of Texas, but it could be in Tennessee real easy.
Sure, it could be.
Same way as the following. Now then, I want to get down to the meat of this story. Ashmed's story brought an outpouring of support from Barack Obama. Why did he open his mouth?
Because the president is supposed to.
Because the president's Muslim? Is that it?
No. The president's not Muslim. You
What
know
is
he's not
he?
Muslim in the
I think he
suggestion
is.
that he
No,
is.
I really
Not
think
that
he
there's
is.
anything wrong with being Muslim, by the way.
I'm just saying I think he is Muslim.
Then why do you get so animated?
Because it's an attempt that's been made for 8 years.
It seems to me that I think obviously you may have some kind of latent bias against Muslims.
Yes, it's called.
Franklin.
It's
you
called,
have a late.
it's
Obviously,
called,
you have a
maturity,
latent bias against Muslims.
It's called maturity.
Perhaps you should seek help for your hostility
the
toward
ability
the
to
Muslim
have a
faith.
serious conversation
I'm
without
having a serious
denigrating one's
conversation.
opponents
is
called maturity.
Do you think by the president making these remarks it helped the attorney with his lawsuit?
I don't know why it would. The president.
You don't think the president, the bully pulpit,
the federal government won't be involved in that case.
There'll be a jury.
Maybe
And
not.
the jury, you're telling me the bully pulpit of the presidency of the United States isn't an effective PR tool?
I'm sure that's a real popular thing in the state of Texas.
Do you think it was correct for the President
I'm
Obama
sure
to make any remarks about
Because he
this?
overwhelmingly gets 60-70% of the vote in Texas, right?
Do you think?
So, yeah, it's really helpful.
Last question: do you think it was okay for President Barack Obama to make any comments about this?
Yes, I do.
All right, and an outpouring of support
By who?
That's the way the press deemed his response. Was an outpouring of support.
I don't have a problem with that.
Well, Franklin, we've had actual government situations where people died and the White House refused comment because they said there was ongoing legal operations happening, and yet in this case,
those are criminal
he sticks
cases,
his
John.
nose in.
Those are criminal cases.
Well, it doesn't matter, Franklin. His philosophical point was, I shouldn't be involved because I don't want to bias the proceedings. He didn't mind biasing these proceedings.
Going on then.
There is one going on here, and he's biasing the proceeding.
He didn't say anything today about it. You're talking about comments he made a year ago. Way before this case was ever
That's
filed.
what I'm trying to say, Franklin. He should have kept his lip zipped, as we say.
Oh, you think the president should shut up about everything you disagree with?
No, I think he ought to keep
You don't
his
think he
mouth
ought to talk
shut
about
up.
anything, and then you come in here and say, why didn't he say this?
You
can't have it both ways.
We've got to go to break, but I want to say this before we go to break. He's done more to create controversy in this country than any president we've ever had.
That's because you don't like the side he's on.
Well, Franklin, you need to work on your bias towards Muslims.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
Woot FM is your hometown oasis. WOOP LP Cleveland. Woo Violet. Radio 99.
A little thing for all my Democrats out there, during this beautiful holiday season. It seems like the Republicans are getting a lot more airplay with Trump and talking about all the other ugly wives and his beautiful wife. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I thought, hey, maybe it's time to give the Democrats a little bit of a plug here. Here's a little thing on.
Check into cash. The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check Into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check Into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check Into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Did you know that U.S. Money Shops cashes all checks, even the ones most check cashers reject? Tax refund checks, government checks, payroll checks, and many more. And when you cash a check with U.S. Money Shops, we'll give you 10% off your next purchase. At U.S. Money Shops, we have everything you need at a fraction of regular retail. So stop by one of our 11 locations or visit us online at usmoneyshops.com.
Buy yourself a coin today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Some restrictions may apply. See store for details.
After 135 years, Hardwick Clothes, America's oldest since 1880, has delivered on our commitment to produce the finest navy blazer in America. This limited edition blazer was announced as the style winner in Garden & Guns Made in the South Awards. Crafted in Cleveland, Tennessee, we use premium Italian wool from the Tale Barberis, custom Bimberg lining, and signature gold buttons. It's available through the finest men's stores or at hardwick.com.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
This is Teresa Gilbert from the Village Bake Shop in Cleveland, Tennessee. Do you have a birthday, wedding, or anniversary coming up and want that perfect cake? Need some donuts to sweeten up your co-workers? Want to surprise your sweet thing with a bag of cookies? Then come on over to the Village Bake Shop. Family operated since 1961, the Village Bake Shop is your first and last stop for fresh baked goods that will feed your sweet tooth. The Village Bake Shop located at the Village Green Town Center. The phone number here is 423-476-5179. See you soon.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239 or go see him
every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
Train engineers put our heating and cooling products for almost every test imaginable. So while you're sending your kids to school, they're sending 10,000 volts through a compressor. Testing like this is the reason Train is so reliable, and why our engineers prefer their steaks. Well done.
Ready to indulge in Train comfort? Call a Train comfort specialist at Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. High quality service and installation for more than 30 years.
It's hard to stop a train. Really hard.
Whoop Island, Radio 99, with Fro Daddy featuring Matador. Afternoons.
You know, chicken lips, you don't know how many pairs of chicken lips you've eaten in your life, Matador.
This is dedicated to parade field trooper who never leaves that nice soft garrison.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, we're back. Everybody's cooled down. Everybody's good. We're talking about it again. There's been some new information coming out about paid to play on Hillary Clinton. There's been more information coming to the front. I think it's Trump is real smart in playing this game. Everybody's down on Trump, but I think all you got to do is wait a little while. There'll be enough lies Hillary's told that things will start coming to the top. And right now, paid to play. John, can you tell us a little bit about it?
The founder of WikiLeaks claimed, he gave an interview a week or so ago where he said that they had new releases that were coming that would put her in jail. Now, you know, I've got my problems with WikiLeaks, but in this case, they seem to be released. Now, what you're talking about, though, actually comes from Judicial Watch's long-running Freedom of Information Act request court action that federal judges have had to force the Obama administration to turn over documents. The latest headline that you're referring to comes from some of Huma Abedin's emails that they have gotten a hold of, and they show Clinton donors to the Clinton Foundation directly contacting Huma Abedin, Cheryl Mills, all of Hillary's top people, and requesting appointments and connections through the State Department and apparently getting them, which is a pay for play. You donate $1 million to the Clinton Foundation and you get a contact through the State Department in the country that you're trying to do business in.
But as federals would say, they're protected, right? Franklin, would they be protected about it?
Not if they committed a crime.
Oh, okay.
No.
I just want to make sure we talked about all these feds.
I mean, you have a guy that got an appointment to it, and the emails say, look, he's a large donor. He wants this appointment. Give it to him. One of them was U.S. Postal Service appointment, but one of them was to a security intelligence committee that the guy had absolutely no qualification, training, experience, anything. But that's what he wanted.
Now, these were donations to the Clinton Foundation?
To the Clinton Foundation, okay. Who then turned around and contacted Hillary Clinton and her people at the State Department. Right. And they got the State Department to give them access to ambassadors, access to appointments, access to business connections through the State Department. In other words, the State Department and their resources were for sale to the highest bidder for the Clinton Foundation.
What's your opinion, Franklin?
I don't think it would be shocking to discover that political donors and well-connected people got access to people. Now, hold on, I'm not done. Okay. The question is not that, although that's the part that everybody talks about the most. It's whether or not there's some illegal benefit given them.
Well, Hillary claims that this foundation does so much good.
First off, keep in mind that
but that's a different
Barack
question.
Obama appointed her, the Obama administration was expressly concerned about this and stated that there had to be a complete separation between the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Enterprises and her job at the State Department. When you have emails going from her top aides to the State Department and from the Clinton Foundation, identifying donors, identifying in some cases how much they have donated.
Would those be private emails?
Well,
no, these are not private emails.
They're also emails that were.
That's why they're accessible.
Were they turned over by Hillary Clinton? No. These are all emails that were not turned over, even though she made the public statement, I've turned over all relevant work emails.
These weren't her emails.
Some of them are.
No. These were not her emails.
The current ones are not, but
no, that's so let's make
well,
that
she got rid of her emails. We couldn't see
these
them.
are emails between other people.
Okay.
Huma
who they
Abedin,
got off the
Cheryl
State
Mills,
Department from the State Department.
which were run through the Clinton private server as well, and were not turned over. These were not turned over either until a federal judge ordered them to be turned over.
But they were produced through the State Department.
Because but the State Department didn't turn them over originally. Why would they not have turned them over? There were all kinds of Freedom of Information Act requests made, and federal judges had to enter into this and order the State Department to turn these over.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just making sure the facts are clear.
And these were all emails.
This has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton's server.
No. That is not true. You're absolutely wrong. All of these people, Huma Abedin, Cheryl Mills, their email accounts were private email accounts as well that were hosted on the private Clinton server. These are all emails that went through the private Clinton server.
Well, Hillary, again, she's coming up right now saying that she contradicts the FBI again, says that no emails were marked classified.
Well, they were.
She's coming back
She's
again.
calling Comey a liar, just like she called the Benghazi moms liars.
Everybody that deals with her is a liar. Right?
Except her, apparently.
She did not call the Benghazi moms liars.
She said they were mistaken.
What did she say?
And by the way, all their public statements have been that she can't imagine the pain these people feel.
Right.
Number one.
But they're liars.
That's a great thing
Number
for her to
two,
say after calling
No,
them liars.
and then she went out and pointed out that 9 different committees have investigated this and didn't find any of the things.
Well,
that
actually, the 9 different committees didn't have the emails that we're now getting, did they?
Those emails don't have anything to do with Benghazi.
Actually, there are Benghazi emails that we're just now getting that the committees didn't have. And on top of the fact, Franklin, how much higher would you have to be in the State Department to bear the responsibility for the overall outcome? Oh, that's right. There's nobody higher. She's it. She's as high as you go in the State Department.
How many times have I said on this radio program?
Then don't excuse her of her liability for what happened in Benghazi.
How many times have I said it was a terrible mistake and she can be held accountable for that?
What was a mistake?
Having the private server, period.
Oh, we were talking about Benghazi. Was it a mistake to ignore all of the emails from Christopher Stevens? Was it a mistake to send him there? Was it a mistake to be funneling guns to the very people who probably killed him?
First of all, she didn't send him there that day, and you know it.
She allowed it. She's the State Department.
Wait a minute, John.
She is the State Department.
Do you see no difference in allowing something and sending somebody?
I see when an ambassador sends multiple emails to you and you don't respond,
Here's what I know.
You're liable.
Chris Stevens' wife doesn't take the view you do, and if anybody had the reason to do it, it would be her.
Well,
so
there's
maybe,
there's
just
4
maybe,
other
that
men
suggests
that
something
died
else
there
to you.
that do.
Second of all, all those emails that you're talking about also include statements from Chris Stevens saying that he recognized these dangers, and he didn't have to go. He was going on his own.
He asked
they
for
didn't
support.
make him to go.
That's also why he asked for increased security and didn't get it. Did he get security?
He didn't get as much as he needed.
Did he
for
ask?
Sure.
No. Did he
sure,
ask
John,
for increased security?
And was it denied? John? Who else is the one who sat
was
in here
it
and
denied?
said no? Who else is the one who sat in here and said that's actually the issue we ought to be talking about? But you guys can't stop talking about conspiracy.
Can I think?
Security.
I want to say something. I think that they went there to set up another.
They were running guns to the rebels, and the rebels probably turned out to be ISIS people.
I think,
and they're protecting them.
I think they went up there to set up another.
We already know they were running guns out of Benghazi.
But I think Hillary didn't know how bad it was, and she let these people go.
Well, if she had taken one of the over 200 emails from Chris Stevens and his people that went unanswered, she might have known.
I think, from what I understand, as soon as Chris Stevens got in that country, he was trying to get out
Here's what
of
I
there.
would say to all the people out there that are considering voting for Hillary Clinton.
It's not hard to get out.
if
you
your
quit.
father,
if that's what you think.
If your father, if your son, if your daughter, if your sister, if they serve in the U.S. military and place their bodies in harm's way to protect our way of life, do you want their identity in Hillary Clinton's files? That's all you got to ask yourself. Do you trust their safety and security with their identification and their location to Hillary Clinton and her computer files?
Well, apparently everybody in the CIA and the National Security Administration
like
for the
Mike
last
Morrell,
several
who
years
said that no Iraqi dissident had turned out to be a terrorist when the FBI's own people arrested and convicted two of them in Kentucky. That kind of competence, Mike Morrell.
or the 50 Republican National Security officials yesterday. 50? All Republicans?
Well, if
who said Trump was morally
If I had the kind of results with our personal security that the intelligence community has had under the Obama administration,
These are Republicans.
I'd be protecting myself too.
Republicans, not Democrats.
All right, Franklin, I know you're waiting to talk about this, so I'm going to bring it up.
I just asked the question last week. How
week.
many more Republicans would be bailing on Trump this week? I said 50, 75, 100. It's over 100 now.
Okay. Now
8 United States senators, congressmen who won't have anything to do with him.
Can I say something about
Go
this?
ahead.
All right. I think most of it, you'll see, are scared that they can't win an election without staying.
These aren't elected people.
Wait a minute. They can't win an election without staying with traditional ideas and traditional thoughts.
What traditional idea?
I want to say something. The system is screwed up on both sides, Republican and Democratic, okay? I think Mr. Trump is not a traditional politician like anyone else. So you've got some people scared on the right, and you got some people scared on the left. But I think Mr. Trump is smart enough to understand this, and I think he will. The cream will come to the top because there's no cream in the Republican or the Democratic side.
Okay.
The cream will come to the top.
The only thing you guys have to hope for is that some scandal comes out affects her.
Some scandal?
Yeah. I love
you mean
this.
another one?
Anti-Trump conservatives recruit candidate for the White House bid.
Yeah.
Those anti-Trump conservatives, I bet you, are Democrats.
No, not really.
I bet you they are when it comes down to it.
My Lord. The list of people that you guys have quoted over the years who are now saying they don't want anything to do with him is astounding.
Yeah, but Franklin, to Steve's point, they're all insider people. They're
That's
all
right.
establishment people.
They all have a lot to lose if Trump changes the system as they know it. How about if the first thing Trump comes out and says is that he wants to get term limits going? How many Americans do you think would get behind him on term limits?
A lot.
You know, I'm waiting for that to come out, but it'll come out later.
He hasn't come out for that.
No,
Never
I think-
said a word about that.
I think he'll be all over
Where
it.
does that come from?
Well, do you think it would be something you'd vote for? Would you be for term limits?
Not particularly.
None of these other politicians would be for it.
The reason I'm not for that
Maybe
is
they're
because
scared of
I
Trump.
think that people are grown-ups and we get the
No,
government we deserve.
I'm for term limits.
Yeah, and we
Always
can't-
have been.
you
We
can't-
need
you
term
can't-
limits
You can't
on
get
all
these old
levels.
traditional politicians to even talk about that.
Well, the problem is when they created the system, they didn't think they'd need term limits because none of these people saw bureaucracy and government employment as a permanent occupation. They were farmers, they were builders, they were printers, they were silversmiths, and they went and served their community, and then they came back home to their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems here has been the rise of a permanent bureaucratic class.
It is. It's gotten so bad. Washington is broken because of the.
Washington's broken because Republicans say no to everything.
No, that's
everything.
not it. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Actually, Franklin, two things. First off, Democrats were just as good at saying no,
No,
when they were
they
in the
really
majority.
weren't.
And secondly,
there was no meeting. There was no meeting
What's
the
the
day
di-
that
Well, let
George
me put it
W.
to you
Bush
this
got
way,
elected, who said our primary strategy is to block everything.
Let me put it to you this way,
That
Franklin.
never happened when
someone
Democrats were
breaks
there.
into your house and is discussing whether to kill you or not, saying no to them is the correct answer. So sometimes no is absolutely the right thing to say. If you're doing bad things, unfortunately, look up some of the current articles.
No to things they
look
ask
up
for.
some of the current articles about how the big left-wing money in the Democrat Party has skewed the party and drugged them so far to the left.
When Obama does things Republicans ask for, they turn around and vote no on what they ask for.
You mean like Marco Rubio and his immigration plan that the president torpedoed because of politics?
No,
the president pointedly torpedoed Marco Rubio's plan because of politics.
How about the people that Republicans ask him to appoint to open positions, and then they vote no on the people they ask to be appointed?
Well, actually, you're making Trump's argument right here. Thank you.
Yes, if his argument is get rid of the Republicans.
His argument is to get rid of the establishment.
Well, and actually, he's doing a pretty darn good job of that.
Well, we'll see.
What about the Second Amendment comment?
I assume that he was joking.
Actually, I don't assume he was joking.
But that says plenty by itself because it's not something you joke about.
Now, here's the thing. Here's what he meant. If you understand the actual intent of the founders for the Second Amendment, it was to be able to, for the people to protect themselves from the tyranny of a out-of-control government. And that's what he meant. He meant that the people that believe in the Second Amendment are not going to turn their guns in. They're not going to allow themselves to be made victims. That's all he meant. He meant it in a political way.
Except that Hillary Clinton has never once advocated turning anybody's guns in.
Her daughter has been...
Just like Barack Obama never did that.
They both advocated the Australian plan.
You guys are out here stirring up this crap. You're going to get people killed.
The Australian plan was confiscation.
You're going to get people killed by some nut job who believes
Hillary
this crap.
and Obama advocate the Australian plan.
People are going to
I'm asking you a simple question.
You know what people are going to die from, Franklin? How about all these people that Obama's let out of Gitmo and letting out of the prisons right now?
He's let more federal criminals out than the last 9 presidents combined.
Actually, what's happened is he's commuted more sentences instead of pardoning them.
Which has let them out of prison.
Which is a different thing. And the number of pardons he's done is dramatically lower than previous presidents, including all your Republican
I'm sure it'll
ones.
pick up in the end of this year when he establishes his foundation like the Clintons did.
I think everybody ought to have their own foundation and not pay taxes.
Like Al Sharpton doesn't pay any taxes?
And what about Al Sharpton? When's he going to pay the back taxes owed?
When's he going to...
He's a national hero to the Democrats.
Perhaps the president should revoke his standing invitation to the White House until he pays his taxes.
Okay.
By the way, Bernie Sanders just bought a $600,000 third home. Socialism's worked pretty well for Bernie. He's never held a private job.
Oh, I tell you.
Yeah, he just bought a $600,000 vacation home.
But we wouldn't want to talk
she
about
just
that.
bankrupted the college that she used to work for. They actually went bankrupt under her leadership.
What are the 641 new regulations Obama's put in place?
More regulations than the past presidents combined.
A third more than the last president, Bush, I think. Anyway, but the regulations are a hidden tax, if I'm not mistaken. Are they not, most of them?
Oh, yeah. The regulations cost the economy billions and trillions.
A regulation is where you're told it's maybe an unfunded mandate.
It is an unfunded mandate. You will do X, Y, and Z.
And
we don't care what it costs.
We don't have money for
Republicans have pushed for legislation that would actually require agencies to factor in and decide what the cost of implementation would be. Democrats have opposed that.
By all means, dump whatever you want in the rivers. Emit whatever you want into the air.
Here's the point.
Don't worry about
we don't need those regulations. What the cost is.
By all means.
And that's what y'all always do.
By all means, don't have people work with respirators when they're working around
Nobody said
chemicals.
That, Franklin.
Those are regulations.
Yes, some regulations are good, some are bad.
There's a news flash.
Yeah, there is, Franklin. And guess how you determine that? One of them is you'd have to do a cost-benefit ratio, which Republicans support and Democrats oppose.
No, Republicans don't actually support
we do.
that, John.
We've
they
pushed
oppose
that
all of them.
We've pushed that legislation, and the Democrats have opposed it.
At least in your lifetime.
Cost-benefit ratio. That's what we
oppose everything.
You know, I was reading an article here that...
and by the way, in my lifetime was Richard Nixon. Who did the Clean Water Act? Who did the Clean Air Act? Richard Nixon.
Which just
I'm
goes
sorry. That's a minor little fact to get in your way.
Which just goes to show there's no principle involved. It's whoever happens to have the R by their name.
No, the point is, Franklin, there's reasonableness here. And you all have been taken over by the radical environmentalists, and you are driving the economy into the ground.
Nixon was one of the biggest regulators in history.
You are driving the economy into the ground.
Senator Clinton, I was reading an article here where she had, as a senator, Senator Hillary Clinton, when she was a senator, promised 200,000 jobs in upstate New York. Her efforts fell very flat.
Had a net job loss.
Yeah, you remember that Great Recession? Remember
Franklin,
that one?
it was from 2000, the year 2000 on, a net job loss.
Yes, because of all the jobs lost.
She left just as the recession was starting.
The jobs plunged 25%. Manufacturing jobs did.
By the way,
while she was senator,
she had a 65% approval rating in New York.
People are not. Yeah, we had 12% turnout to vote locally. Nobody's paying attention. She started a private sort of think tank that was going to do this. They raised just over $1 million from undisclosed sources and spent almost all of it on staff salaries and conferences. That's her result. So once again, a bunch of Clinton cronies made a lot of money, but the people in upstate New York lost.
I want to comment on some nutty comments that are being made. The New York Times. Prediction markets suggest a chance that Donald Trump will drop out of the race. And then it comes back and says, ABC News reports that senior Republican officials are taking out the idea seriously enough that they're exploring how to replace him if he drops out. Why in the world would anybody publish something like that? That is absolutely nuts.
Because the staffers in his campaign are in total disarray and are in panic mode. That's why.
I don't think so.
By the way, folks, before we leave, the WikiLeaks has announced that a DNC staffer was the actual leaker of all the DNC emails. A week and a half ago, he was shot dead in the street, shot twice in the back. They've labeled it as a robbery, but amazingly, his billfold, his credit cards, and his watch weren't taken.
Is this in Washington?
Washington, D.C. He was shot dead.
I thought they had it was illegal to have guns in Washington.
That's true. It is.
And
one of the strictest gun control states or cities in the nation. One of the highest crime rates, but one of the strictest gun control. By the way, the highest per capita is out west, and that state actually has some of the lowest crime rates. But my point is, Julian Assange has actually labeled this guy as the leaker, and amazingly, he was shot dead a week and a half ago.
That's scary. Scary. There's been some other controversy in the Clintons' life.
Just Google Clinton body count. Feel free to Google the Clinton body count and read about it.
Here comes the obligatory conspiracy theory.
Yeah, let me read you one then. This is just one off the list. Ron Brown, former chairman of the Democratic National Committee and the Commerce Secretary, was on a plane in Russia. The plane crashes. He was just about to testify because he was about to be indicted, and he had made a deal with the prosecutors. So his plane crashes because of bad weather, although the Weather Service says there was no bad weather over there. The very next day, his personal lawyer was murdered in a drive-by shooting, and a couple of days later, the air traffic controller in Russia who was in charge was found dead and declared a suicide. But that's just coincidence. And that's one of probably 60 or 70 people who have, one guy killed himself by shooting himself twice with two different guns. But it's still labeled a suicide.
Franklin, you got any last comments before we leave?
I think the more y'all talk about this stuff, the better my candidate does.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I think.
You know what, Franklin?
Because it's so goofy and divorced from reality that people just go, why am I supporting
Franklin,
this?
Facts are just facts.
Franklin, we've got to go. We're out of time, but I want to say one thing about Hillary before we leave, and I'm going to try to be positive, okay?
Okay. You try hard.
The truth hurts. Bye-bye. See you next week.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every Wednesday.